Hi, I'm Dr. Kat, psychologist, author, and one of the founders of online therapy, telehealth. For over 20 years, I've helped people uncover the patterns that hold them back and the truths that set them free. Whether it's how to build real boundaries, heal childhood wounds, or quiet the noise in your mind, I'll share the insights that have helped my patients finally shift and have a healthier, happier life. One thing to keep in mind, when you go to therapy or you speak to someone, there is no magic wand, magic pill. It's hard work and you have to put in the time. It becomes a choice to be happy and a choice to shift. Now, I know if you're feeling depressed or anxious, sometimes you feel so anchored down that it's impossible. But part of therapy or life coaching, especially therapy, because when you dig into the past, that's more of a therapeutic experience. It's trying to help release that anchor so that you can move forward. So we're going to move on today. I'm going into another section where I received a lot of questions. And what we're going to do is no fluff, no judgment, just real talk that leads to real change. So let's get started. One of the questions that were posted quite a bit was, how did my relationship get so stagnant? Like, what is going on with my relationship? Why do I not feel good about it? Or I'll have couples that will say, there's no interest, or they feel resentment because there has been no relationship. They've developed a wonderful or not so wonderful roommate situation. And then they say, how did we get here? How do we get back? What do we do? So I did mention the questions. If you have any questions or thoughts, I did add another feature to chatwithdrkat.com, and that is you can post your questions with your name and email or completely anonymous. Sometimes that anonymity feels great, and I get it. So if you have a question, go ahead and leave it. Okay, so I spoke about the floodgate theory. So now I want to talk about my cow theory. I talked to several people about the cow theory, not just with friends, but patients also, because it really does shed light, and it came from a true story. I'm going to tell you that true story right now. So I went to go visit relatives in Ireland, and they own a dairy. So I went in to go see with my cousins, and one of them said, hey, do you want to go for a walk and take the cows from one pasture to the other? And I said, oh, where are these cows from? Are they from the dairy farm? And he said, yeah, they were, but they're now basically put out to pasture. And I'm like, oh, okay. So we start walking and we're talking, chit-chatting, and I reach out to touch the back of one of these cows. So I want you to get the visual. It's a black and white cow, beautiful creature. And I reach out and I pat it, basically kind of on the backside. This cow turned around and looked at me. I mean, truly where the phrase, if looks could kill, this cow nailed it. She turned around, she looked at me and stared with such anger. And I looked at my cousin and I said, should I run? And he said, hold on a second, probably not. And I thought, probably not. So I stood there and I said, what's going on here? And he says, well, the cows that used to be at the dairy farm were used to being touched every day. They had the machines connected to their udders. And every time a farmer would put the udders, the machines onto the udders, he would stroke their back or their backside, and then once they got to the point where they were no longer needed, they have been put out to pasture. And now when you go to touch them, he goes, I think they're just a bit angry. And I thought, oh my, here is the cow theory. So this is how I've applied it now to us. So a lot of the times in our relationships, in the beginning of the relationships, they're wonderful. They're wonderful. You and your partner are connected sexually, emotionally. There's passion. There's all these different things. Just even a connection. Doesn't even have to be all that, but just connection. And as time goes on, whether you have kids or you have a career that takes you away, what usually tends to happen is that less and less time is spent on the relationship. There's no balance at all. People become hyper-focused in different areas, career, kids, whatever it is. And that becomes their number one. In order for a relationship to truly work, you do have to make your partner number one. If not, it will fail. Someone will be left feeling ignored and feeling isolated. It just happens. You have to make them number one, even to your kids. Even that's hard. When you're cooking, cleaning, feeding, bathing, doing all that stuff. My advice is always get them to bed really early, make it a pattern, make it a habit in the family so that you and your partner can have alone time every night. Okay, back to the cow theory. So how does this apply? Well, when you're ignored and left alone and you start building this sense of resentment. Okay, but the one thing you really do want is the attention. You want the attention. You want the hugs. You want the kisses. You want the strokes. But then your partner comes up to you, gives you a hug, and you're like, get away. What are you doing? But you're pushing away what you actually want. That's resentment. So it's a hard thing, just like that cow. The cow missed being touched every day. The cow missed being seen every day. And now she was getting a pat from me and she was ready to attack. This is what goes on in relationships. And this is both for any type of relationship where this happens. Any type of partner relationship, this is when it happens. So now the goal becomes, how am I supposed to be seen? What am I going to do differently? Because usually what happens is one of the people in the relationship will say, okay, what do I need to do? Or even worse, I'm going to torture them. I'm going to be angry with them. I'm not be supportive. And those are more of those passive aggressive attempts, which usually comes after, let's be honest, for the most part, after so many attempts have been made to make a connection, you become angrier, you feel defeated, you feel unseen, unheard, and it's like, why the heck would I go back and try again? I get it. Trust me, I get it. The point is, what is more valuable to you? To be right or to be happy? Now, sometimes I know being right makes you happy, but at the end of the day, what is it that you want? So let me give you an example. I was talking to somebody and she was telling me that her partner, she doesn't feel seen, doesn't feel heard, doesn't feel connected. And she was saying, every day I would iron his clothes, I would bring him slippers. And she says, and I just love doing it. It was my love language, my gift. And she says, because he stopped seeing me or treating me with any love, I stopped doing all of it. So after I validated her completely, I did say, not only now are you not getting it from him, but you're depriving yourself of what you enjoy, which was getting all those things prepared. That becomes the issue because you don't, in part of your mind, you don't want to keep doing things because you feel like it goes unseen, unheard, or unrecognized. Somebody's ungrateful, and you feel like every time you do it, that's the resentment. But sometimes bringing those things back can actually reignite. So here's another thing that I tell people that I work with when they say, I'll say this. When you come home at night, how are you greeted? And some will say, I don't know, I walk in the door, I put my keys down. Sometimes I flip my shoes off. I walk in and, my partner's sitting there on the computer, or maybe dinner is being made. Somebody else is not there. I mean, there could be a whole slew of things. What I don't get is people saying that someone runs at them, charges at them and says, oh my gosh, you're home. So excited. So I say to them, and most people, not all people, but in certain circumstances, this works greatly. And that is, how does your dog greet you when you get home? Not your cat, but your dog. How does your dog greet you? Most people, if not all, will say the dog runs into the room, excited, twisting their body, contorting with such joy and love just at your mere presence. And then as you hug them and kiss them and pet them, they become even more ignited. And I say to them, and how do you feel? They said, well, I feel great. And I said, and when you walk through that door, who do you normally pay attention to first? And they said, well, the dog, because the dog wants the attention. I said, okay. So let's try something new. Here's homework. Why don't you come home for a week? And if a week is too much, try 2 days. Try just 2 days, baby steps. To act like the dog, and I mean from a human perspective, act like a dog when your significant other walks through that door. See what happens on both sides. See what happens. Now, the first couple of times, it's going to be awkward. It's going to be funny. Laugh. Have fun with it. Try not to overthink it. Don't be critical. Don't say, oh, well, you're not acting like the dog. Hold on for a second. Let's just see how the process goes. Then, maybe a couple hours into the afternoon, give some feedback. Now, if you thought the feedback or you thought your experience was fantastic, let the other person know. Just say, that was really funny. I loved how you came up and you were wiggling your body and you were happy and you were hugging me and kissing me hello and you were so receptive to it. Wow, that was really great. Because again, the expectation is you're supposed to be doing the homework, right? The second one is you're trying it out. Third, you kind of have to put the resentment down. Like, why haven't you been doing this? Like, only what? Only the doctor tells you to do it and now you're doing it? Like, these are all the things when we're in that resentment phase will come up. So you want to fight those feelings. And what you want to do is genuinely give feedback of, yeah, that was really funny. That was really great. You can even say, I need to do this a few more days to really get into it. Now, if the person is not into it and didn't do it, you can say, this part was really great, but for tomorrow, could you give me even more energy? Part of that homework is really hearing the feedback also, not hearing the criticism, but hearing the feedback. Again, can be very difficult. Not a magic wand here. You have to put in the work. You have to go back and keep trying it, because eventually, as we keep doing it, things get better. So here's another example. A lot of times, we watch commercials, right? I usually like to give the example of like Aflac, or when you see the gecko, or the farmer's insurance, dun, 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 whatever it is. You hear these things because and you know what it is. You know what product it is because that's branding, right? They're branding their product. So you hear it over and over and over again. And there's a part in our brain, literally a part in our brain, that allows us to then incorporate that. But after we've witnessed it and heard it numerous times. Another example would be you decide you want to start going to the gym. Well, I hate to tell you, you're not going to go 1 to 2 days and now you've created a solid pattern. No, you've got to put in a solid 2 to 3 weeks, if not a month, of going on the regular to keep it going. Here's the other thing to keep in mind. Say you've been going to the gym 2 years, and all of a sudden you go on a vacation, you get an injury, something happens. Some people can bounce back and start going to the gym right away. Other people, they've lost it. They've got to fight to get it back again, because that's what the brain does, right? We tend to go to the negative, or we reason things away. One of the biggest things when we're dealing with, addiction or any of these things that keep us from doing things, it's called rationalization. We rationalize the heck out of something, we wind up not doing it. So You're on a diet and you're saying no sugar, and you think in your mind, well, I'll just have one cookie. Or you know what? I've had one cookie today. I shouldn't have had it. Now I'm just going to let myself go. That's rationalization, right? Or I've tried working with my partner. It's been 2 days. I'm not getting the response I want. I'm going to let it go. That's rationalization. Rationalization seems like a great idea at the time, but what it does is it keeps you from doing the work that is necessary, right? Keeps you from doing the work. Again, going back to the gym example, you're not going to go to the gym for 3 days and come out with this body that's completely morphed into something else. You have to put in the time. Sometimes it could take a year. It could take years. It could take months. You have to put in the time. It's the same thing with your mental status, your mental health, your mental well-being. You've got to put in the time. So, same thing with a relationship. If you're not putting in the time, you're going to have a relationship that doesn't work. I listen and look at a lot of reels, and I always tell my kids, they make fun of me, by the way, when I say I'm doing my research. And sometimes it's very hard to not slip down the rabbit hole, which will be another topic for discussion at a later date, slipping down that rabbit hole with social media. But some of these reels will talk about relationships, and they'll say, when you look at how you rank importance in your relationships, what they usually feel is job, kids, relationship, or kids, job, in-laws, relationship, spouse, partner, whatever it is. And really, if you want to maintain, it has to be relationship, partnership, your kids, your job, and everything else. Now, some of you may say, well, I've got to make a living. I've got to do all these things. Your first two don't have to be huge, monumental jobs. There's things that you can do that will allow your family to know how important they are, how loved they are on a daily basis. It could be a note. It could be something simple, a text. Hey, thinking about you made me smile. Hope you're having a great day. How long does that take? 2.5 seconds? Worth it. Then you spend 10 hours at working in your job, but you'll spend seconds throughout the day just writing a text. Now you think to yourself, well, but I have to stay focused. I have to stay focused on what I'm doing. You go to the bathroom, you do some of these things, maybe you exercise throughout the day. Take a moment to put that significant other first. Let them know how valuable they are, how important they are. Because if you don't, it becomes a slippery slope. And then you wind up finding yourself in a loveless relationship. You're in a roommate situation. And some people will even say it's a silent divorce, meaning you're not together anymore. There's no resemblance of a marriage except for the fact that you're paying bills and that you share children or pets or home, whatever it is. Here's the bottom line. Do you want that relationship to look like that? If the answer is no, then fix it. Not tomorrow, today. Fix it. Do what you can. Make it a priority. Put it on your to-do list. Every day, take notes. Now, some people will say, well, if it doesn't come from the heart, I don't want it. No, put it on a to-do list. Make it happen to the point where it no longer becomes a thing you add on the list, but it's become a habit that you love, enjoy, and it creates happiness in the people who are in your life. That's what you do. Now, part of my podcast is also about not just relationships in the home, but also in your world and in your environment. If you have employees, take seconds every day to let them know how great they are. Give them positive feedback as well as constructive feedback. Anything you do for people where they feel seen and heard, you will be ahead of the game. It shouldn't be, well, they should know what they're doing. They need to do what they're doing. People want to feel seen, they want to feel heard, they want to feel respected, and they want to feel gratitude. It really is a silent disaster brewing if you don't take the time. Trust me, it's in everything I see, all your relationships across the board. If you're not taking the time to show appreciation and how you feel about that other person, it's not going to work. Here's on a final note that I want you to have a vision of. Okay? This is a good one, so take note. 10 people walk in a room and they say to you, "Oh my gosh, Dr. Kat, you look amazing. Wow, amazing." One person walks in, gives me the once over, negative look. 9 more people walk in the room, they go, "Oh my gosh, Dr. Kat, you look, wow, amazing." Who do you think I'm going to be thinking about? The 19 people that gave me positive feedback, or that one individual that was negative? Most of the time, not all the time. If you've been able to evolve more, you're going to be thinking about those 19 people. And that one person, you're going to say, "Oh gosh, maybe they're having a bad day. You know what? Maybe I misunderstood the look and their contact was ready to flip out." Create your own story. It doesn't matter. That's the valuable part of what I'm saying to you now. Focus on the 19 people. Accept their compliments. Believe them. Feel good. The one that is negative, make up a story that's going to make you feel better, because you know what? Just feel better. Now, if the person gave you constructive criticism, take it in. See if it applies. See if you want it. Move on. But don't forget, our brain tends to do that. It's a natural occurrence that goes on in our brain. We tend to go to the negative. You know, when you think you're sitting around with a group of friends, which will be another topic that we'll talk about later, and you're all sitting around talking, you know, and somebody is saying, "Oh my gosh, my kid's so wonderful. Oh, my family's so wonderful. I'm doing so well." Inevitably, someone's sitting there going, "Oh my God, why won't she stop bragging? Why won't she stop talking about all this stuff?" But then she says, "Oh my gosh, you know, I'm thinking of leaving my partner," or "Oh my God, something devastating happened to the neighbor," or something, and everybody leans in. Why do we lean in on the negative? Why? Why aren't we happy for the things that are positive and we lean into the negative? Well, sometimes that negative makes us feel like our life isn't so bad. We take in those moments and we think, "Oh, all right, life is not that bad. I'm okay, I'm all right. You hear the positive and you think, "I wish my life could be better." Okay, here's my advice. If they're your friends, please lean in when they're being positive. Give them that gift of your love. Give them that gift of appreciation. Give them that gift of happiness that you have for them. That's what a true friend is. When it's negative, lean in, but be ready to support, listen, and be there. That's my advice. Why? Because not only will they be happier, you'll be a better friend, and you're going to walk away feeling so much better. Now, everything I've said today, not easy. I realize that, not easy. That's why you got to put in the time and you got to put in the work. But you know what? Do it. Do it. Put in the time. Because at the end of the day, you will be happier. The people around you will be happier. Life is short. Life is so short. So we've got to make sure that we put in that time and that energy. So again, I'm so glad you're listening. We have so many topics that we are going to talk about because you've been already sending things in, and I appreciate that. That tells me that people are already listening. That makes me so excited, so excited. So keep sending those in. And remember, you can put your name and email with your question or thought, or, "Hey, this is what I was thinking." Or you could do it anonymously. You don't have to put anything there because, again, anonymity can be great. So go on to Chat with Dr. Kat. Look at the questionnaire there. Maybe go through the website. Check it out. You also can see me on Instagram and Facebook. You can write something there. I will be sure to write back. Have a great day. Have a wonderful day. Make the choice to take time for yourself, Make the choice to be better and to do better. And remember, there's no fluff, no judgment, just real talk that leads to real change. Thank you. Have a great day.